Now I am branching off and trying another and a new variety of foxglove, celosia, a new type of gomphrena. I also picked up two varieties of zinnias. Look at these beautiful colors. Well, it's that time of year again where we're all excited about buying seeds for the new growing season. And today I'm going to share with you a handful of seeds that are must grow in my garden. They have earned a permanent spot in my landscape. And I'm also going to share with you a few new varieties that I'm trying this year for 2026. Hi, it's Steph. Welcome back to my channel. If you've been around for a couple of seasons, you know that there are certain annuals that I start from seed that I am in love with. And I like to grow those same plants for the same spot every year because they just look perfect in that area and I don't want to mess with it. And one of those flowers is a zinnia that I've been growing for about 3 seasons now. It is the Zahara Double Raspberry Ripple Zinnia. It is a low stature zinnia. It gets really bushy and round, and it goes through such a beautiful color variation. It starts off with a really bright fuchsia pink, and then as it ages, it starts getting this striping effect, and they look almost pink and white, and then they start fading to shades of light pink and light cream, and they are so pretty. They also solo maintenance. I actually don't even have to deadhead them. I might go through once a season and clean them up just to keep them going. But other than that, they are on their own. The first year I grew them in one of my front borders and I loved them so much, and I saw how they grew. I kind of was able to study their habit and how low growing and bushy they get, and realized the following year that they would be the perfect plant to grow in front of my driveway walls. And I have loved them there. They go nonstop the whole season from when I plant them out until the fall. Because they have only a small amount of seeds in the packet, I do start these indoor under grow lights because I want to have more control over growing these zinnias. I don't direct sow them, but they are so pretty. And I know so many of you have told me that you've also tried growing them and now love them as well. Moving on to another beauty. It is ageratum, specifically the Blue Horizon ageratum. This one stands about 18 to 20 inches in height. It has the most beautiful purple color. The pollinators absolutely love them. And they also make a great cut flower for fillers in floral arrangements. So for all of those reasons, I will continue to grow this Blue Horizon ageratum. And it pairs beautifully with my next must grow flower, the Dalmatian Peach Foxgloves. These are an absolute beauty. And unlike other foxgloves that are typically biennial, and what that means is that biennial plants, the first year that you grow them from seed, will work on root development and foliage, and in year 2, you will get those gorgeous spikes of blooms. Well, with the Dalmatian Peach Foxglove and another variety, the Camelot, which I'm also going to be growing this year for the first time, they bloom on year 1. Now, the Dalmatian Peach Foxgloves are supposed to be perennial, but in my experience, they haven't returned for me. So I do have to start a fresh batch every year. And if I start them early enough in the season, they usually bloom for me at some point in June. Now, foxgloves are toxic, so if you do have children that frequent your garden or pets, something you want to be aware of, just to be cautious of that. And gomphrena. If you've been around, like I said, you will know how much I love gomphrena, and the place that I love to grow it is in my main walkway border. I have grown it there for the past 4 seasons and I absolutely love it. So last year was the only year that I didn't have too much success with it, but it was my own fault. I planted 2 annuals in that space. I think they were competing for nutrients. I also think that the Suncredible sunflowers that I had planted there were very vigorous, so they shaded out the gomphrena, but I'm going back to it this year, and I'm actually trying a new variety that I will share with you. And another must grow for me every year is the beautiful Sahara Rudbeckia. Now, this is one that I have been growing for 3 seasons now. It is gorgeous. And the first year that I grew it, I was not expecting to see blooms the first year. Even though they are an annual, they can be a half-hardy annual, meaning that if you don't have a really hard winter or really cold winter, they might come back. In fact, I did have a couple of the plants come back this past season, which was really exciting. But I had already started a bunch more plants under grow lights in my basement because I did not want to be without them. And it is a must grow for me in my garden. Now, if you've wanted to try growing flowers, but you don't think that you have enough space, or maybe all of your flower beds are taken up with all of your perennials and shrubs, you can still grow some cut flowers or some flowers to enjoy throughout the season in a raised bed. Actually, most of the flowers that I grow for fun and for cutting and for bringing inside to enjoy in arrangements is grown in my raised bed garden. I have those metal raised beds by Vigo Garden that I have shared with you in the past, and they are a great place for me to grow many of these flowers that I'm sharing today. And even my sister, who has a fairly small yard, she lives in the city, so she has a very small urban yard, and she had this driveway area behind her garage that she really wanted to grow some flowers in. And I was able to set up one of the Vigo elevated raised beds in that area for her, and she had beautiful flowers to enjoy all season long. So if it is your desire to grow some flowers and you don't think that you have the space for it, if you have a little corner that you can add one of these little raised beds, you can grow some really pretty flowers to enjoy all season long. So if you're thinking about adding a raised bed in your garden, I always have links for Vigo Garden down below. I've ordered lots of seeds online over the years, and so I've gotten onto these mailing lists and I've started receiving catalogs. And over the last couple of months, I've had a chance to go through them and make some decisions about some new varieties that I want to grow. But before I order any seeds, I make sure to go through my seed stash and take inventory of what I already have on hand. Now, this is just a photo organizer, but it works really well for seed storage. And I keep it in my basement, which is cool and dark, so it keeps the seeds nice and fresh. But I've gone through and organized my seeds to see of the flowers that I've grown in the past that I really enjoy, do I have enough to grow this year? If not, I made a list so that I can order those again. And I've also separated out all of the flower seeds for the plants that I want to grow with winter sowing, because I'm actually starting that this weekend and I'm so excited about it. And so now I'm going to share with you 19 varieties that I picked up for this year. And because a lot of these seed packets are just paper with no photos on them, I'm going to hop onto their website so I can give you some visuals of what they look like. The first site that we're visiting is Johnny's Seeds. This was the first order that I got in this year. Now, I did order from 4 different places, and I'm often asked when I show flowers that I grow from seed, where do I like to order my seeds from? And the truth is, I order from everyone. It all depends what seed I'm looking for and where I can find it available. In general, I try to order as many seeds as possible from one place because it'll save on shipping, but it doesn't always work out that way because they all sell different things. And so from Johnny's this year, I ordered about 8 varieties. The first variety that I want to share with you is the Misty Lavender Larkspur. Now, I did try to grow larkspur last year and it didn't do that well for me. And I'm not sure why. I grew the Imperial Giants variety, Giant Imperial, and I only got one to germinate in my winter sowing container. So in this packet from Johnny's, there is 100 seeds. So I'm going to grow a few of them in winter sowing this year again, see how they do. And then in the fall, I'm going to try direct sowing some of the seeds in my raised bed garden and see if those do any better. And so it's going to be a little bit of a trial and error, but these are so pretty. They have this kind of moody lavender, smoky purple color. Gorgeous. So I'm really excited to try growing these. They do get pretty tall, 36 to 48 inches in height. And it says that Misty Lavender is identical to the heirloom variety known as Earl Grey. And I love Earl Grey tea, so I think it's meant to be. Attracts hummingbirds, which is always a plus. So I'm really looking forward to growing this variety of larkspur. And a new variety of foxglove. This year, I'm also trying a camelot type of foxglove, which is supposed to be a first-year blooming foxglove. So I've already told you that I love the Dalmatian peach, grown it for a few years now, and this is a new one. And I think that this lavender foxglove, along with that Dalmatian peach together, is going to be stunning. So I am going to grow these side by side. I'm hoping that they bloom around the same time because that's something, right? We can't control that. I am planning on starting these both indoors under grow lights at some point in February, the 22nd of February, which happens to be 12 weeks from my last frost date here in my zone 6B, 7A is somewhere around May 10th. So I've already done the math with a calendar. And so that's what I'm planning on doing with both my Camelot Lavender Foxglove as well as the Dalmatian Peach. Now this Camelot Lavender digitalis seed is pelleted. And so pelleted seeds are great because they have a coating on them, especially when the seeds are tiny, which foxglove seeds are very tiny. And you get 50 seeds. And this one gets to be 28 to 40 inches in height, which is a little bit taller than Dalmatian peach foxgloves, which in my opinion only get to be about 20 to 24 inches. At least that's been my experience. And so these get to be slightly taller. At least that's what the specs look like. But I cannot wait to grow these together. Look how pretty this is. This very light purple with a hint of pink. So pretty. And of course, the Dalmatian peach. I only had a few last year. I grew them all out, so I needed more seeds. These are pelleted. Again, you get 50 of them. You can see here on the website that the variety does measure a little bit shorter. According to their specs, it lists them as 24 to 36 inches in height. And I would say that that's pretty accurate. Like I said, mine were somewhere between 20 and 24 inches. But the color on these is absolutely stunning. I grow these currently alongside my Blue Horizon Ageratum, and that light purple color with this peachy apricot is just stunning. And so adding in that other Camelot Lavender Foxglove, I think all three of them together, I cannot wait to see how that turns out. And a new to me variety this year is a type of celosia. Now I did grow celosia last year. I grew a terracotta variety, very pretty. They make a gorgeous filler in containers, or in arrangements, I should say. They are wispy, kind of plumy, feathery looking. Love them. So this one is called Shimmer, and you can see it's various colors of apricot and pinks, which happens to be the color scheme that I love to grow flowers in. All of my zinnias, or most of my zinnias that I'm growing this year, fall into this range of colors. So I think that's going to look really pretty as an accent flower. And you get 50 seeds of the celosia. And the other variety that is new to me this year is this type of amaranth. Now this is called Red Spike Amaranth. And I just fell in love with, again, that plumy kind of feathery look of this flower in this deep color. It's like a burgundy. So pretty, the foliage as well as the flower. And as we transition into late summer and fall, I think this will be a really pretty filler. So earlier in the season, I can use that celosia to kind of fill in with my zinnias. And then this would look really pretty with those darker colored flowers, like some straw flower that I'm growing towards the end of the season. So I'm really excited about this variety too. I did grow a variety called Aschenberg last year. It didn't do that well for me for some reason. I only got a couple of stems out of it. So I'm going to try this one this year. And a new type of Gomphrena. So I've already mentioned that I love the atomic purple, but my husband George, who often helps me out in the garden, and you've seen here on the channel several times, he actually picked this Gomphrena this year. This is called Sequin, and it's a new variety by Johnny's, and I thought it was really beautiful. So we are going to grow this variety for my main walkway border this year. And you get 50 seeds. I am going to grow these with winter sowing because I find that the Gomphrena does pretty well with winter sowing. The moist, cool soil helps break down the chaff, and they germinate well. So that's what we're going to do, and I think this is going to be gorgeous. And I also picked up two varieties of zinnias from Johnny's. So this variety here, look at these beautiful colors. Now I think this with those celosia stems that I showed you, let's look at that. So this is the Aurora Zinnia, and look at this celosia. I think these two are going to look absolutely beautiful together. See that combination? I'm so excited. So this is the Aurora Zinnia. It's a type of Zinnia elegans by Johnny's, and you get 50 seeds in the container. It is an annual, and they get to be about 30 to 40 inches in height. So pretty. So this is the one that I ordered from Johnny's, and I ordered one more variety of Zinnia. So this one you get, I did tell you, 50 seeds. And the other variety that I ordered from Johnny's is Linen. So initially I thought I was going to order the ballerina and the linen, but it turns out that this linen variety, the more I read the description of it, it says that it's from the same lineage as ballerina. Linen offers refinements in bloom, form, color, and overall uniformity, and it produces a high percentage of double blooms, which I love double bloom zinnias. So I'm not growing dahlias this year in my raised bed garden, and so I'm going to go all in on the zinnias, and I love the way that some of these double and large zinnias really mimic some of the beautiful varieties of dahlias. And so when I read that, I was sold on the linen variety, and I skipped the ballerina variety. So this linen one, look at this. It has really pale, soft colors. I think that'll be really beautiful. Next, we are on the Pine Tree Garden Seeds website, and I picked up a few varieties here. And the first one is my tried and true double raspberry ripple zinnia. Now, I needed more of these because I have found in my experience, regardless of where I ordered these from, that I've had spotty germination. I always have a hard time with some of these germinating. You only get 20 in the pack, and I need 18 plants to do both sides of my front driveway walls. And so for that reason, I definitely grow these indoors under grow lights so I have more control over them. But also, this is not something that's specific to where I order them from. It happens with all of them. I've ordered these seeds now from 3 different places each time. And so this one is an annual. You can see how beautiful the color on this is. Look at that. You get so much color variation on just one zinnia. Like I said, they start off a brighter pink and then they start to fade to the striping effect. Then they go lighter and lighter as they age. Just so pretty. And they're pretty short. So let's take a look at the specs here. Like I said, they probably only get, it says right here that they 16 by 20 in height and in width. So nice compact size. They don't require any staking. They're nice and bushy and pretty sturdy. They look really pretty. So these here need full sun, as do all zinnia varieties, but I really love this variety. If you haven't tried it yet, I highly recommend it. I love it so much that I tell everyone I can, grow this variety. The next plant that I picked up this year is going to be new to me to grow from seed. Now, I have grown candy tuft in my garden. I usually buy it as a perennial plant. I will sometimes in the spring pick them up from my front planters on my porch, and then I will plant them out in the landscape. The variety that I have is white, really pretty, super hardy. Now, this is an annual variety that I do not believe is as cold tolerant as the perennial version. So these here says to grow them outdoors when the temperatures are 65 to 70 degrees, the soil. So they do need warmer temps. My plan for these is to grow them so that I can use them either along my borders as a bedding annual or even in containers, but they are really pretty. They come in these light shades of purples and pinks. It is a mix, so I'm guessing that there'll be some variation in color. It says that they are short, 18 inches, but very impressive, and a mixture of colors that shows every shade from pink to dark purple with a few whites thrown in for contrast. And so if you've ever grown a candy tuft fairy mix before, let me know in the comments, how did they do for you? And they like full sun and average well-drained soil. And I'm trying a new variety of Rudbeckia this year. I have loved the Sahara variety so much that now I am branching off and trying another. This is one that has been around for a little while now, the Prairie Sun, but look at this color on it. What I love most about it is that green eye. So most of the time, Rudbeckias have a brown eye, right? They'll call them Black-Eyed Susan, the perennial varieties, but they have a brown eye, so I don't know why they do that. They should call them Brown-Eyed Susans, right? But this one has a green eye, and I think it's really interesting. It has a really pretty shade of yellow, and so I am going to give this one a go. Let's see how tall they get. It says that the flowers can be as large as 5 inches across, so that is a pretty substantial size bloom. So I think that'll also look really pretty mixed with my zinnias in cut flower arrangements. And it says that they could be perennial in zones 5 through 9, so I would be interested to see if these return for me, just like some of the Sahara Rudbeckias had. And they get to be 30 by 36 inches in height and 18 by 24 inches in width. So if I do plant them in my borders, they have to be like a second row of the border because they'll be pretty tall. And they like full sun and loose, rich, well-drained soil. And the next plant that I picked up is one that is new to me. I've grown this variety of plant before, Verbascum, also known as mullein. And the kind that I grew last year, which I'm going to grow again this year, was the Southern Charm. Gorgeous shades of light pinks, kind of like a mauve, antique mauve color. So pretty. But this one is a mix, and you can see here by the website that it looks like it's shades of light pink, a medium pink, and purple. And so these get to be 3 to 3.5 feet tall, and they're covered with a pretty mix of white, rose, red, and violet blooms all along the stalk in the spring. Now this plant is a pollinator magnet. The bumblebees in my garden go crazy for this plant. And so I thought that I needed more varieties. I also grow the white candles or white wedding variety that I had picked up a seed packet a couple of years ago for. I've shown that in my garden before. And then I started with the Southern Charm, and now I'm going to grow this mix. And more zinnias. So I did pick up quite a few varieties this year because like I said, I want to go all in on the zinnias. And this is the classic Bennery's Giant. And this is a mix, which means it has multiple colors in it. And what I like about the mixes is the color variations, right? So you get the same large blooms that the Bennery's line is known for, but you're going to get different colors. This one says that they're 4 to 5 inches in diameter, and they come in shades of orange, golden yellow, and you also get lighter pinks. So I think that's going to be really pretty. The reds, so some of these colors are going to transition really nicely into fall, especially with that spike amaranth that I picked up from Johnny's. So I think that's going to be really pretty. And last year when we went to landscape designer Andrew Grossman's house to check out his stream project that he did in the garden, gorgeous. If you haven't seen that, I can link it down below. But he was growing this really pretty zinnia, and I asked him what the variety was, and he didn't remember at the moment, but he did get back to me afterwards and told me that it was the Oklahoma Salmon Zinnia. So this year I ordered this variety as well. I think it's going to be really beautiful. I love flowers that are in this salmon kind of apricot color range. So I think this is going to be a really pretty one. Now, what was great about this one was that they were all double. They were all really ruffly, and they were a little smaller at about 2 to 2.5. It actually says here 1.5 to 2.5 inch semi-double to double blooms. Top strong, sturdy stems and have excellent vase life and strong resistance to powdery mildew, which is great because a lot of zinnias have that tendency towards the powdery mildew. So anytime you can find a variety that's more resistant, bonus. So I think this is going to be a really pretty one. And I got 25 seeds in the packet for this one. And another variety of the Bennery's Giant, the Salmon Rose. I've grown this one before. The bloom was huge. I mean, the biggest bloom I've ever seen on a zinnia. In fact, my husband George thought it was a dahlia. It was so pretty. And so we're going to be doing that again. I have used up all of those seeds. So I picked up another pack, and you get how many in this? 25 in the pack. So I'm going to grow probably most of these, at least half of them this year. And the next seed order came from Baker Creek. Now, I've ordered from them several times before. I really like that they put pictures on their seed packets. They also have free shipping. So 2 things that have made me want to order from them in the past. Small things, but they make a little bit of a difference, at least for me. And so the seeds that I ordered from Baker Creek are the following. So I ordered some stock, and I mentioned this before that when I grew stock last year, I did not like that it was an annual that you only get 1 stem of flowers per plant. And so I just felt like it just took way too much space, especially for me, just as a regular home gardener who just wants to cut flowers to enjoy myself or to gift to someone. I'm not going to be, selling flowers at my roadside stand or anything, right? Although that would be fun. But I wanted a stock that would put out more stems so that it would be more of a space saver, right? I could grow less plants with more flowers, which is always the goal. And so I picked up this new variety that I found on their website this year called the Baby Rainbow. And it's a really pretty color. You can see here that it has like a light lavender pink coloration with a little bit of cream in the center and a green or a yellow colored eye. So very pretty. It looks like it only gets to be, it needs 12-inch spacing. It doesn't really specify the height on it, but I think it's not going to be too tall. My guess, it's probably going to be somewhere around 18 inches or so. So I think that's going to be really pretty. And this beauty that I have grown in my garden before, and I have talked about at length when I do garden tours, is the Echinacea Green Twister. So this green twister coneflower I have grown from this very same packet of seeds when I initially grew them about 3 or 4 years ago. And the seeds, I had gone through all of them. I had grown them, given them away. And so I needed a new pack, and I'm going to grow some more. Gorgeous coneflower. It has this really pretty, the traditional Echinacea purpurea color in the center with that purple pink, and then the tips have this like limey green coloring. Really eye-catching, so pretty. So I'll be growing that again. Coneflowers are one of my favorite perennials, and perennials do really well with the winter sowing method because most varieties need a cold stratification treatment, which means it has to go through a season of cold and moist temperatures to help break down that seed and for it to more easily germinate. And so perennials are also plants that don't always bloom in year one. So they might work on root development and foliage in year one, and then you'll get these gorgeous blooms in year two. So you just have to be a little more patient. You will eventually get these beautiful flowers. They just might not show up the first year. You might get them the second year, but so pretty. And this pack was $5, and you get how many seeds in here? It looks like you get 15, a minimum of 15 seeds in this packet. And another beauty. And so this is the one I was talking about when we looked at the pine tree seeds order. And I mentioned that I was growing that new variety of Verbascum, which was the mix. This is the one that I grew last year, did really well with winter sowing. It is the Southern Charm Verbascum. So let me show you that. Look at this. So beautiful. It has like this, like I said, a light kind of mauve antique pink coloration. It looks like some of them even grow a bit creamy. I haven't had any of that color in my plants yet. They usually are just that shade of mauvey pink. They are so, so gorgeous. Look at that. They're very tall and spiky. Verbascum grows very similar to a foxglove and larkspur in the sense that it's a tall spike type flower. Another really pretty cottage garden flower. I'm guessing that you see these a lot in like an English garden, which is so beautiful. And a new to me variety of marigold. So a few years back, I had grown these really large marigolds that were orange and yellow. And I don't even have footage of it because I believe it was before I started doing YouTube, but they were so large and striking. And I've been after a similar marigold for a few years now. And it looks like it's the African marigolds that get that big. Well, this appears to be one of those varieties. It is the Keys Orange. And I thought this would be a really pretty filler flower along with some of the other plants that I'm growing, especially as we transition into late summer and fall with those deeper colors. I think this would look really pretty with that amaranth and that burgundy color. So I'm going to try this variety this year, the Keys Orange Marigold. I also picked up a type of basil, and I picked this up more as a filler or an aromatic type plant to use in my flower arrangements. But you can also eat it fresh, and it's called the Persian basil, and it's a purple leaved variety. And the last flower that I picked up was Dara. Now this is a flowering carrot. It's actually known as carrots, and it provides this really pretty flower. Very similar to growing, say, dill. When you grow dill, you get the flowering that happens, which is also really pretty and has a really nice fragrance. Dara is very similar, but it has shades of, it looks like pinks and ivories. It says that it produces a large number of flowers over a long season, takes 90 to 100 days to maturity, and they get to be about 4 feet in height. I did hear that these have a tendency to get a little carried away, so I will have to keep an eye on them. But again, I'm growing this as a filler to grow with some of my other focal flowers like the zinnias. And something that Baker Creek does is that they will often give you a free pack of seeds if you order a certain number of packets. And in the past, I've always noticed that even when I order just flower seeds, they would always throw in a free vegetable seed like carrots or something else random, but never flower seeds. Well, I was happy to see that with my order this year that I mostly ordered flowers, they gave me a free flower seed this year. And it's actually a Purple Prince Zinnia, which is awesome because I'm growing a lot more zinnias this year. So I was really excited to see that in my order from Baker Creek. And the last order came from Rene's garden, and I ordered 3 varieties from Rene's garden, and 2 of them are types of nasturtium. Now, I love growing nasturtium. They're a cool weather flower. They have a really beautiful leaf. They almost look like a lily pad to me, and I've been on this quest to find a nasturtium that is close to pink as possible. Most of the time when you find nasturtiums that claim to be a shade of pink, they're more often than not a shade of red. In fact, I grew one last year that turned out to be a little bit more red than I had preferred. And so this one, Cherry's Jubilee, says that it's soft lipstick colored flowers that shade from light to deep rosy red in a very unique hue for nasturtium. So fingers crossed, it is more pink than red. And so I am going to try growing this one. And it's also a mounding nasturtium, which is a great candidate for a container. These are edible. They're a pollinator magnet. They're also really low maintenance. And like I said, they like cool temperatures. So they do really well in mid to late spring and late summer as we head into fall. And the other variety that I picked up is this Aloha mix. And this one also had a really pretty color variation. You can see here that it has a mix of a light yellow, a apricot color, as well as a pinky shade nasturtium. So it says the Aloha mix is a blend of soft tropical shades, including apricot, cream, soft yellow, and rose. And they have, oh, it even describes it as lily pad shaped leaves that make a lovely garden tapestry. These also look really pretty on the edges of raised beds. I actually have used them in my raised bed garden, and they look really nice. And they also look great lining a path or even at the edge of a border. They make a great border plant. So pretty and so easy to grow. Now the seed is really hard, so you do have to soak them overnight before you sow them to help with germination, or you can do something called scarification, where you just kind of nick them with a nail clipper or a nail file, and that will also help break down that hard seed. And the last plant that I ordered, or the seeds that I ordered from Rene's garden, is this Orlea. This is very similar to the Dara, where it's a very kind of open flower, kind of lacy looking. This is almost like a Queen Anne's lace. It's supposed to be really easy to grow. Apparently they do a lot better with direct sowing, so I may just sprinkle this out in one of my raised beds in spring and see how they do. But I think that this white flower will be really pretty as a filler. I've decided that this year I'm going to skip growing feverfew, even though I really like it. I read somewhere that feverfew is not a favorite for bumblebees and honeybees. And last year I had a little bit of a pollination issue with growing my delicata squash, which happened to be in the same bed as the feverfew. So for that reason, this year I'm going to skip feverfew. I'm going to grow some more of these white filler flowers, the Orlea being one of them. And I think that's going to be really pretty. So I'm excited to try this one. One of the questions that comes up pretty often when I make a video like this is, when should I start this seed? And it really is dependent on which seed you're growing, but more importantly, when your last frost date is. And to figure that out, all you have to do is go to Google and say, when is my last frost date? It'll likely ask you what your location is or your zip code, and then you'll get a general date of when that is estimated to be. So here in my zone 6B, 7A, I have looked this up and I am slated to have my last average frost date around May 10th. So I just take a regular calendar and I go to May 10th and I marked off estimated last frost date. And then whatever my seed packet says for the plant that I want to grow in terms of weeks, which I should start my seeds, that's what I do. So this one here, for example, is the Verbascum, and it says that I should start this seed 6 to 8 weeks before my last frost date. So I will start with my last frost date and I will count backwards 6 to 8 weeks, and that is when I will start that seed. Now, it also goes a little further than that, because you have to decide if you're going to be growing your seeds indoors under grow lights or outside using the winter sowing method. So once you figure out what it is that you're growing, what your last frost date is, and which method you're going to use to grow your seeds, you can then start outlining that. I took some notes on a piece of paper and I just pretty much figured out what I'm growing, how I'm growing them, and that will give you a really great starting point. So planning is half the battle. So let me know if you've already started to order some of your seeds and do some of your spring garden planning. What is it that you're excited to grow this year? And let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will catch you in the next one.
Hey darling, can I tell you what's been on my mind? Sick and tired of the 9 to 5 in the city life. Hey darling, we could get out of town, see the beautiful world around, wanna see it now. Our bags and get in that car, leave a little note and we'll drive real far. Let's get out, we can leave this city. Let's so pretty with the wind blowing in your hair. We can look back someday, baby, don't you understand that we only get one life? I wanna make it count, honey, come on now and take my hand. Hey, darling, I love it when it's me and you on the road with a couple of tunes in a car for two. Hey, darling, you know we're gonna have a really good time, driving in the middle of the night when the stars are bright. Pack our bags and get in that car, leave a little note and we'll drive real far. Let's get out, we can leave this city, let's drive to the open air. Yeah, the countryside is so pretty with the wind blowing in your hair. We can look back someday, baby, don't you understand that we only get one life? I wanna make it count, honey, come on now and take my hand. Get out, we can leave this city, let's drive to the open air. Yeah, the countryside is so pretty with the wind blowing in your hair.
My raised bed garden is starting to be so productive. I finally have some dahlias that are starting to bloom. My zinnias are also looking beautiful. I was able to use some dill flowers as a filler, and my feverfew, which looks like a mini daisy. Some euringium, which is a perennial. And this year I'm growing this variety of celosia. It's called terracotta, and it makes a really pretty spike type floral filler. And I really like the way that it looks.